You gonna swing on me? That won't dance, son. He gonna swing on me? I ain't did nothing to that man, bro.
Even the most seasoned partygoers were left stunned by what transpired last night. It was one of those nights when the city's most exclusive nightclub felt electrified. The music was loud, the lights were shining, and the room was crowded with influencers, celebrities, and everyone else in between. But most people were there to dance and relax, and 3 familiar individuals had unresolved business, so things were going to get tense.
I just had to cool off, right? Just get my mind right, man, you know. But I really gotta get this off my shit, man.
The VIP area was bustling, but Kirk Frost and Yung Joc weren't their typical lively, outgoing selves, dressed to impress. They were positioned in their corner booth like kings looking over their court, but something wasn't right. They had drinks in their hands, but neither was actually drinking. To the typical clubgoer, they appeared calm and collected, but their body language conveyed a different message. Joc leaned in to speak to Kirk, who hardly nodded and kept his eyes fixed on the middle of the dance floor. They were surrounded by people, but Kirk and Joc weren't there to celebrate. Their VIP booth provided them with the ideal perspective of the space, and they didn't waste any time waiting for him to arrive. When he did, he was there, a little unaware that a confrontation was headed directly his way. Scrappy came in as though he owned the place. His wide smile, confidence, and swagger filled the room. As soon as he entered, he was encircled by his people, hugging and greeting supporters, laughing, clinking glasses, and taking photos with guests. You could sense the change in the club's atmosphere as people drew towards Scrappy because he wasn't holding back, and his energy was contagious. That's just how it always is when he steps out. Although most people were drawn to the fun when Scrappy entered, a few keen observers noticed something else in that dimly lit VIP booth across the floor. Kirk and Joc were not being carefree. They were closely watching every move and still holding on to something heavy. Although the tension wasn't immediately apparent to everyone, those who were aware of it could feel it in the air. Halfway through a transition, the DJ slowed down his tempo a bit, as if trying to figure out where the energy was going. But every spotlight casts a shadow, and Scrappy was about to step right into it. Another dancer near the bar stopped mid-move and turned to face Scrappy's section. A couple of security guards also subtly shifted their positions. Things became even more subdued back at the VIP booth. Kirk leaned in once more, this time speaking lower, and Joc nodded while looking at his phone. Then he raised his head and looked around the club. The atmosphere between them had stopped being light. Joc gestured with his chin in Scrappy's direction, and Kirk followed the motion, his eyes narrowing and expression serious. They were just sitting there when a waitress arrived with more drinks, but she paused when she got to their booth because of the looks on their faces. She carefully placed the bottle down, avoided talking, and stepped back because she could feel the tension. The camera phones weren't out yet, but people in the room knew something was brewing. As they sat still, some of the guests seated near Kirk's booth noticed how motionless he and Joc were, like they were waiting for something. Scrappy, on the other hand, continued to laugh, but one of his friends leaned in and whispered something, and Scrappy glanced over his shoulder toward Kirk and Joc's booth for just a moment, long enough to catch a signal. They were waiting, not merely observing, and the moment had finally arrived. It hung in the air.
Look at me. Let me go. Look at me.
Man, I'm frustrated, irritated, man.
It didn't take long for the silence to end. Kirk and Yung Joc eventually left their VIP area and began moving through the crowd. As soon as they did, the atmosphere shifted, and you could see people move aside. It wasn't loud or confrontational yet, but something about their movement made everyone take notice. Scrappy was still with his people near the middle of the dance floor. As Kirk and Joc approached him, he noticed the movement heading straight for him. He turned and nodded, as if to keep things cool, asking, "What's up?" Joc didn't smile in response to Scrappy's question, which he asked with his arms spread wide. He didn't sound nervous yet, just curious, perhaps even a little uncertain. Kirk didn't return the gesture. Instead, they stood so close to one another that the music made personal space feel non-existent. The music felt abruptly too loud for the tension in the air, but the tone quickly changed, and what began as words quickly spiraled into something much more intense. Joc leaned in and said, "We heard what you said, Scrap. You've been talking too much." He looked him in the eye, and Scrappy furrowed his brow in confusion as he discussed what Kirk had said. He didn't wait for a response, and he replied, "You know exactly what playing both sides means." The real weight was dropped behind the scenes when Kirk took out his phone and held it up as a badge of proof. "You think won't come back to us? We got the receipts. So you were at that studio last week talking reckless. Do you think people are loyal to you?" Scrappy looked at the phone, then back at Kirk, and that wasn't even the entire conversation. He raised his voice slightly, but Kirk didn't flinch and added, "Context or not, you said it, period." "I said what I said, but it wasn't how you were trying to twist it." The scene was becoming more intense as the so-called proof was in hand. Scrappy's face turned red, and his normally composed demeanor was shaken. He said, "You all are acting like I'm some backstabber, but I have been real with both of you. More times than I can count, you guys." The volume had changed, and everyone who hadn't noticed before was now watching phones as the DJ turned down the music a little. Security at the edge of the dance floor began to move in just enough to be ready, and Scrappy pointed toward Kirk's phone, which you wanted to show. "Scrappy, you think I'm afraid of receipts? Half of you are phony anyhow. Let him talk. Let him get it all out." But Scrappy wasn't calming down. "I held you all down, and now because of a few words out of context, you're all ready to burn it all." The crowd was gathered around them, not too close, but definitely tight, as if everyone in the club knew this was no good. You could feel it in the air as the last spark that would ignite it all was only seconds away, and it was about trust, pride, and respect being put to the test right there under the flashing lights.
Have nobody if y'all ain't with me. I don't have nobody.
I'm okay.
Like all that talking, cuz I need y'all to show me, cuz, for real.
When the yelling peaked, neither Joc nor Scrappy was giving up. The Joc remained motionless as Scrappy moved closer and closed the small gap between them until they were chest to chest. When Kirk saw it coming, he leaned in and gave Scrappy a final warning, saying, "You might want to fall back before this gets serious." But Scrappy was past that point. He added, "It already is serious." A moment later, a drink flew from a table, glass shattered, and the music didn't even have an opportunity to stop before chaos broke out. Joc pushed forward just enough to get a response, and that was it. Scrappy gave him a hard shove in the chest, and Joc staggered back, slamming into someone close. When Kirk sprang forward, everyone in their immediate vicinity abruptly shifted, and one of Scrappy's boys leaped in to pull. He pushed him back, but that only led to more pushing. A second member of Scrappy's crew slipped while attempting to intervene, knocking into another VIP guest. Drinks spilled, chairs tipped, and the once silent crowd was now caught in the middle of a real fight. Some people began recording while holding their phones high as the dance floor descended into a flurry of shouting, shoving, and flashing lights. Via the base, before any punches could be thrown, Scrappy's crew wasn't letting up, but one of his guys shoved a security guard. The nightclub wasn't just watching, they were witnessing a full-fledged fight. Security wasted no time as bouncers rushed in from all directions, wearing all black and moving purposefully. One of them grabbed Kirk from behind and yanked him out of the circle, away from him, yelling, "Don't touch him like that." A woman adjacent screamed as a drink sprayed on her dress as the bouncers doubled down and used rough force to force the party apart. The tables were moved, and the booth where Scrappy had been celebrating now appeared to have been hit by a storm. Club employees began moving in behind security as things started to settle down, helping to push back the crowd, picking up broken glasses, and attempting to keep other patrons from getting caught in the middle. The DJ realized the shift had stopped the music, and all noise stopped except for shouting coming from the front of the club, and Kirk and Joc were led out through a side entrance with 3 security officers surrounding them. Just upset eyes, no words, and tightly balled fists, with one man holding Scrappy by the arm and muttering, "Let it go, not here." Scrappy's crew was dragged toward the other end of the club. Clubgoers outside who had just seen the action began sharing videos of it right away, with voiceovers saying things like, "Yo, that's Scrappy," and Joc arguing. A 15-second video was published by someone. "Never seen drama pop off like this at a club before." People weren't just reacting, they were picking sides. Someone else remarked after it received thousands of views in a matter of minutes. Although the altercation may have lasted only a few seconds, the impact will continue much longer because Kirk and Joc have business links throughout Atlanta, and several people blamed Scrappy for escalating the situation. They have club deals, public appearances, and collaborations lined up. With something this public, it's not just about bruised egos. There are real consequences. What do you guys think about this whole situation? It has resulted in lost endorsements, strained alliances, and potentially even legal issues if someone decides to file charges. Please share your opinions in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe to this channel for additional updates.